Shall we pray? Almighty God, Creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our counsels and actions, so that we may always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria. Amen. Assembly Library Trust Fund at number 11 of 2022 to change the name of National Assembly Library Trust Fund to National Assembly Library and Resource Center and other related matters there. So we'll announce that before the end of our session today. Any member with petition may please rise to present. So, yes, Honorable.
My petition is signed by one Chief Ifiani Ezonwa Bichi, the Chairman Chief Executive Officer of Parent International Industries Limited. It is an appeal for intervention in the demands by the Nigerian Customs Service personnel for all received payments charged by terminal operators on behalf of the Nigerian Customs Service for scan of containers which none is scanned or examined by the Tinkan Island Containers Terminal Limited and other terminal operators in Nigeria under Nigerian Port Authority NPA. May I, with the leave of the Speaker, permission to lay this petition. Thank you, sir.
Please, you may proceed to lay a petition.
Thank you.
This Honorable Mark Chidi Obeta, the member representing Onsuka, Igbeze South Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Enugu State. I have a petition here from Egwaba Ruben and Co., signed by Ayuba Antivas Esquire. It's a petition on complaints of conspiracy, mischievous and fraudulent practices against Mr. Amorui Boma, the landowner of plot 1318 Mabushi District, Abuja, Nigeria, and Mr. Abdulaziz Jimo, the managing director of plot 308 Kado of Amidubelewi, Abuja, a call for investigation and intervention on behalf of Alhaji Rabiu Mohammed and 3 others. With the permission of the Speaker and the leave of this House, I seek to lay this petition.
Honorable Obeta, you may proceed to lay the petition.
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Barrister Jesse Okejo Onakalos. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, I represent Nigerians, especially the habit of Lagos, Ochodoso. Mr. Speaker and distinguished colleagues, I have a petition from Law Partners and Associates, signed by Sunday Oko Afia, against Nigerian police on what they said unlawful disobedience to the court order, illegal and unlawful detention of their family members. Mr. Speaker, the prayer is enumerated on this petition. I seek your leave to lay it before the House.
Honorable Onwakazi, you may proceed to lay the petition. Yes, leader.
PhD. I represent Balanga, Billiri Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I'm from Gombe State. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition by Tangle Community Development Association against the Central Bank Governor and his management for disengaging 3 of our members without following due process. The petition is signed by Chief Emmanuel Umaru and Alhaji Dair Madugu on behalf of the community. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, may I lay the petition? Thank you.
Dr. Ali Jesse, you may proceed to lay your petition.
Well, I represent good people of Abeokuta South Federal Constituency of Ogun State. Mr. Speaker, I have a petition signed by one MM Joseph on its appeal against premature retirement from Nigeria Police. As the event occurred in 2019, he has written several letters. He's saying this leave of this house to look at this petition. May I see the leave of Mr. Speaker to list this petition?
Honorable Afolabi, you may proceed to lay your petition.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present a petition of my constituent, Mr. Ndubisi Mwezi Mwosu, for unlawful termination by First Bank PLC. Mr. Speaker, I seek your permission and the leave of the House to lay this petition. Thank you, sir.
Ambassador James Shaib Barker. I represent the good people of Gombe Federal Constituency of Adamawa State. Mr. Speaker, I would like to rise on Order 8, Rule 5, to bring this matter of urgent public importance, which has to do with a heavy windstorm which ravaged the community of Pela, Mijili, Garari, Urogarba, and so many villages in Hong local government of areas of Adamawa State. I have to move for the suspension of this order, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder to this motion that is urgent enough? Say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The second leg of the motion. Yes.
I am Honorable Alfonso Sodudo. I represent the people of Ikotabasi, Patin and East Noble Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Akwa Ibom State, and I rise this moment to second that motion. I so second.
Mr. Speaker, note that on the 5th and 10th of May, there was a heavy rainstorm in Pela, Mijili, Garari, Urogarba, Barkari, Jaba, Luga, Mumble communities of Hong local government area. Mr. Speaker, this windstorm had destroyed many schools, houses, farmlands, places of religious worship, businesses, and marketplaces. Mr. Speaker, concerned that as a result of this disaster, many of the inhabitants of these communities have been displaced. Homes, businesses, properties worth millions of naira were lost. After a personal and fiscal assessment of the area, it is evident that this matter is urgent enough. Worried that this unfortunate incident has caused undue hardship, emotional and psychological trauma to the good people of these communities, who are predominantly peasant farmers and petty traders, who depend on farming and small-scale businesses. Mr. Speaker, resolve to urge the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs through the National Emergency Management Agency to assess the level of damage and urgently provide relief materials to the people of these affected communities. Also, urge the Northeast Development Commission to provide aid to the people of these affected communities by providing them with building materials, food items, and business startups. 3, to mandate the Committees on Humanitarian Affairs, National Emergency Agency, and Northeast Development Commission to ensure compliance, Mr. Speaker. I so move.
Committee on Northeast Development Commission, as well as Humanitarian Affairs.
An urgent call to avert serious humanitarian crisis of the displaced persons in Area North, Area South wards of Cross River states. The House notes that the people of Area North and South wards, comprising of more than 30 villages, have endured unimaginable hardship due to incessant communal conflicts and violence, forcing them to flee their homes and seek refuge elsewhere for the past 6 years. Also note that more than 150 persons have lost their lives in these conflicts. Aware that the communities of Abanwan, Ipene, Ebo, Edu, Afono, Ibini, and Urubam in Area North and South wards of Biase local government, Cross River State, have been engaged in prolonged conflict over ownership and royalty rights related to an oil palm plantation in the area for decades. This dispute led to a renewed skirmishes among the communities in 2018. Aware that families have been torn apart, schools, hospitals, houses, property, farmland, source of livelihood destroyed, and the once vibrant communities now lie in ruins. The plight of these displaced individuals, especially children and women, demand our immediate attention and action. Worried that the safety and security of the displaced population must be ensured, this entails deploying adequate security personnel to the area to prevent further violence and provide a sense of safety for those who have been uprooted from their ancestral homes. Additionally, efforts should be made to facilitate the return of those who wish to go back to their respective communities by creating a conducive environment for resettlement. Worried that the humanitarian needs of these displaced communities are vast and varied, access to clean water, food, shelter, schools, and healthcare services is paramount for their survival. Many families are currently living in makeshift shelters without access to basic necessities, exacerbating their already precarious situation. It is imperative that we provide immediate relief materials in the form of food aids, shelters, and medical assistance to alleviate their suffering. Also worried that education is also a critical component of humanitarian assistance, especially for children who have been deprived of their rights to learn due to displacement for the past 6 years. Efforts should be made to ensure that additional educational facilities are restored to the area and accessible to all displaced children, enabling them to continue their studies and pursue their brighter future despite the challenges they face. The House resolves, 1, that the National Emergency Management Agency should provide materials to alleviate their condition. Urge National Primary Health Care Agency to see to the health needs of the people to avoid a near-epidemic situation. 3, also urge the National Universal Basic Education Board to assist in the construction and reconstruction of destroyed schools, and urge the Nigerian Army in the area to ensure adequate security for returning citizens. Mr. Speaker, I so move.
Representing the good people of Oriamo Federal Constituency from Edo State, a very proud Benin chief. Mr. Speaker, this very beautiful motion will not be complete if we do not add the Committee on Poverty Alleviation. Mr. Speaker, I add the Committee on Poverty Alleviation to the prayer. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
You are asking that poverty alleviation be added to it?
Exactly, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder to this amendment? Thank you. Those in support of this amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in support of the motion as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is referred to Committee on NEMA, National Universal Education, and the Committee in charge of Primary Health Agency, in addition to Committee on Poverty Alleviation.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
My honorable colleagues, I remain here Vice Marshal Joao Richard, and I represent the group people of Ekiti South, Federal Constituency 1, and from Ekiti State. So I rise this morning to move this motion of urgent need to put an end to the hemorrhage of the Nigerian economy sustained by the continued export of processed natural resources and raw materials from Nigeria and import of finished goods into the country and call for value addition to our raw materials. I want the House to note that Nigeria is blessed with vast natural resources and raw materials in large commercial quantity, but most of them end up being exported in raw form, which reduces their export values. Aware that the norms of exporting these natural resources and raw material deprives our nation of the true value and potential economic benefits. Further aware that the exportation of unprocessed natural resources and raw material deprive the country of potential revenue and job opportunity that could arise from the value addition within Nigeria. When value is added to primary products before export, the benefit to the nation increase geometrically. Recognizes the importance of adding value to natural resources before exportation as a means of enhancing the country's economy and promoting sustainable development. The House equally note the indisputable fact that the Nigerian economy, like that of most African countries, is characterized by export of raw materials and the import of finished goods. The House recognizes the impact of this over-dependence on imports on the Nigerian economy, leading to a lack of control over growth factor and vulnerability to external economic conditions. The House is concerned that the economic model encourages sustenance living, discourages growth and development, fosters hardship, poverty, disease, crime, and undermine nationalism and loyalty to the state. Mr. Speaker, sir, the House is disturbed that the economic model interferes with the government proposed creating infrastructure for growth and prosperity. The House therefore resolved to call for an immediate ban on the exportation of unprocessed natural resources and raw material from the country. Urge the federal government to implement policies and incentives that will make value addition to raw materials and mineral resources attractive to investors and businesses. Direct the relevant committee of the National Assembly to conduct an investigation into the current practices and challenges related to the exportation of unprocessed natural resources and raw material from Nigeria, and to propose legislative intervention to promote and prioritize domestic value addition and processing. So, I urge the House also to refer this motion to appropriate committee of the House for further consideration and set a timeline for the implementation of such policies and programs. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Very grateful, my dear colleagues. I'm very grateful, Mr. Speaker. My dear colleagues, we have consistently seen ourselves as the people's house. And so at all times we will continue to defend the interests of Nigerians. You will recall that on 9th day of May, that we discuss the issue of Cyber Crime Act and its implementation, and took a clear position on the side of the law that we crafted and passed. However, if you look at the social media, you look at the reportage, there is an impression trying to skew it as if the House is against its own law, whereas that law completely and totally protects Nigerians. And what we have said is that no Nigerian is supposed to be taxed under the Cyber Crime Act. There are specific organizations that benefit from the cyberspace, and those are the organizations only that ought to pay that levy. There is need for us as a House of the People to continue to correct this impression in public space and insist that both the Central Bank of Nigeria and the banking industry should do the proper thing in line with the law. I therefore pray that we see this as an urgent matter that we'll continue to discuss on the side of the people. For us to discuss this matter this morning and take further resolution, I so move, sir. But the prayers are simply.
You have the leave of the House. Go ahead with the motion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, my dear colleague, there is urgent need to correct the wrong...
Minority Leader, they will need to second you.
Very well, that's why I said...
Honorable Sadasoli.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the Minority Leader. I so second.
The ayes have it. Honorable Chinda, the Minority Leader, please, you may now lead your motion.
The urgent need to correct the wrong perception of the House of Representatives' position on implementation of the Cyber Crimes Act. The House notes that on 9 May 2024, the House considered a motion on the implementation of the Cyber Crime Prohibition and Prevention Act 2015 as amended, and resolved to direct the Central Bank of Nigeria to withdraw the ambiguous circular of 6 May 2024 and in its place issue unambiguous and unequivocal circular in line with the letters and spirit of the law, and directed the House committees on banking regulations and auxiliary institutions to guide the CBN properly. The House notes further that the media space was awash with the wrong impression that the House of Representatives was against a law passed by her, which impression painted the House in bad light. The House is cognizant of the fact that the world is a global village, and with the Internet of Things, crime is moving from mid-space, which is real or physical world, to cyberspace without the physical limitation of boundaries. The House is further cognizant that cybercrime is more devastating and can cripple a nation easier than the conventional crime in the physical space. The House is aware of the humongous costs expended on security and the very likely limitations of funding cyberspace security by government. The House is further aware that some establishments carry out their businesses within the cyberspace and make profits therefrom. The House is also aware that the Cybercrime Act imposes a levy of 0.5, which is 0.005% on some establishments enumerated in the second schedule to the Act that occupy the cyberspace, do business therein, and make profits therefrom. The House states that the letter and spirit of the law as crafted by the Parliament is not only commendable but in tune with contemporary trend and supportive of the global fight against cybercrime. The House further states that the levy does not apply to ordinary Nigerians but only to the establishment listed in the second schedule of the Act, and these establishments are GSM service providers and all telecommunication companies, Internet service providers, banks and other financial institutions, insurance companies, and Nigerian Stock Exchange. No more. The House also states that Order 20 Rule 932B of the House Rules provides that in the event of joint oversight on issues relating to cybersecurity, the Committee on National Security and Intelligence shall work with the Committee on Digital and Information Technology. In such cases, the Committee on National Security and Intelligence shall be the lead committee. The House is therefore called upon to resolve to urge the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Office of National Security Advisor to cause further enlightenment on the Cyber Crimes Act and implement the 0.005 levy as contained in the Act, and not for Nigerians to pay a dime. In line with Order 20, Rule 932B, mandate the House Committee on National Security and Intelligence and Digital Information Technology to be part of the committees to superintend over the implementation of the House Resolution of 9th May 2024 on the Cyber Security Levy, and the Committee on National Security and Intelligence as the lead committee as provided in our rules. I so move.
As moved by our minority leader, I so second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Engineer Satomi Ahmad. I represent the good people of Nigeria, starting from Jere Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I would like to chip in more for the minority leader to come up with these clarifications to Nigerians regarding the cyber security or cyber levy.
But before you lead the debate, we need to ask the question first. Yes. That has been seconded. Those in support of this motion
as amended. It's not amendment, it's contribution. No,
is it an amendment you are making? Go ahead. Well? No, let him go ahead. Let him go ahead before the question.
I would like to commend the minority
you are protected
leader for putting the right thing in the square peg, because the impression outside from last week was the House of Representatives have stopped the implementation of the law, and he has clearly stated, Mr. Speaker, that this law has nothing to do with individuals to contribute or their monies being deducted. The CBN wrongly misinterpreted the law. The law is clear, particularly the second schedule, that financial institutions, money service providers, stock exchange, insurance companies, telecommunication, and internet service providers are the businesses to be charged these levies for the benefit of Nigeria. And today, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable House is clarifying the bill that was passed and are sent into law by Mr. President for Nigerians to know that nobody is being charged to pay a dime, and it has been passed to the appropriate committee for proper engagement. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it will interest you to know that this bill was just an amendment of adding the percentage from the product of 0.005 to 0.5%, which is the same thing and was the same document that was transmitted by the CBN on March 2018 to the financial institutions and other agencies of government that are affected. The minority leader cited the importance of cybercrime, cyber security for Nigeria to protect its cyberspace by implementing this law. If we look at countries of the world today, Belgium, as low as their population of only 11 million, Mr. Speaker, they are the #1 globally, spending over $81 billion on cyber security every year, followed by America, and the threat we have even in the country and globally, over 2.8 trillion is being lost or missed due to cyber crime in one way or the other. So this law has nothing to do with the common man, has nothing to do with Nigerians to pay. It's clearly stated in its schedules. And I want to clarify more that the funds is not going to be domiciled in the office of the NSA. It's going to be domiciled in the CBN, in the Security Trust Fund. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, this clarification is a welcome development to the committee, and we will do our work as requested by my leader, the minority leader. And Nigerians should be happy and be proud that it's from the remittances of those institutions in the second schedule that mention in the law that these monies are being going to deducted. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I would like to re-echo more and emphasize more for you to support this levy, because our country faces a lot of security challenges, which cyber security is the only solution to proactively preempt and defend our cyberspace and security. And 40% of such funds are going to be utilized to counter terrorism. It's there in the Cybersecurity Law Act that's amended. Therefore, honorable colleague, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank each and every one of us for bringing and understanding this levy and make it clear to Nigerians that no individual will pay a dime rather than what is stipulated in the law and in the act. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, honorable colleagues, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleagues. I remain Abubakar Maki Eleman. I'm from Jigawa State. I represent Malamudori Kaugama Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, and issues have been said. Even outside are looking at us the way how we are presenting it. For us to stand in this chamber and think or we believe that this levy is not going to fall on our citizens, we are deceiving ourselves. Come back to the issue of subsidy. We all assume that when you remove subsidy, it will end somewhere. As a tail end, who is suffering it? It's the masses that we're representing here. If you are putting levy, you are deducting money of GSM and whatever you call the agencies you call for. At the tail end, it will fall on us and the people that we are representing here. We should look at it, you should look at it critically, sir. That is my own point, sir. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us hear from Honorable Sada Solly.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Sada. Speaker, I'm from Katsina State. Mr. Speaker, I think the general quagmire on this law was caused by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. He's the chief law officer of this country. I think they should have come by the issuance of that memo by the CBN. They should have come and give the Nigerian public the clear interpretation, the clear position of that law. But they kept quiet. And I think this lack of attention to details of legislations from the Office of the Attorney General is a source of concern to this country. There are many interpretations of laws in these countries that are put to public domain, where the Office of the Attorney General should clarify the issues and then we move forward. That failure, that gap, is a very serious source of concern on the part of the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. Another source of concern is the Law Reform Commission. They should tighten up and do their job. We shouldn't have found ourselves on these issues. If they are doing their jobs, they could have clearly come out and said, no, this is the position of the law. I think we should not even bedevil the National Assembly. We have done the law. We have done what we should have done. We called the public hearing. All those that are concerns were here. We passed the amendment. Amendment passed through. And then we are here coming up to,
Thank you.
Apportion blame.
Thank you very much. I think this motion speaks for itself. And Ali JC, and then we'll put the question.
Mr. Speaker, my very respected honorable colleagues, I rise while making little observations and also about the motion moved by my very respected leader. Mr. Speaker, while we acknowledge Section 44 of the Cybercrime Act has clearly specified businesses that will be responsible or that will be charged the new taxes. In most cases, if government introduce taxes to agencies like banks, GSM operators, they clearly transfer these taxes to the masses. And I believe this House is the only hope for the Nigerians. This House is the only place where Nigerians, if they have complaints, they can easily communicate. That is why on a daily basis we receive petitions from Nigerians and transfer them to relevant committees. Because every Nigerian that feel unsatisfied or cheated always run to the House. While appealing to the committee, I was expecting other members to be making comments, not the chairmen of relevant committees, that these motions has been referred to them. So while appealing to them during their own sittings or discussion on the particular issue, let them also do it with human face. They should clearly make it clear that let these taxes, if it's going to continue, not to be transferred to the public. Let it not be transferred to the public, but in a situation whereby the central bank or the office of the Attorney General insisted that these taxes should be transferred to the common man, to the public. Mr. Speaker, my honorable colleague, myself and you and all the members here will come back and amend the relevant act to make it clear that Nigerians should not be victims of this tax. Nigerians are crying about subsidy removal. Okay. They are crying about daily additional taxes by this government. And it's high time, Mr. Speaker, we should always be with the Nigerians and we should stand to defend them at all times. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my honorable colleague.
Let me mention this. The duty of the legislature is to make laws, and once you make laws, it goes from your courts to the executive. We cannot be here discussing implementation. It falls under the rules of the executive. That is the fact. These laws were made by us. And these laws followed the whole 9 years of lawmaking, which includes public hearing. It was advertised, and we invited the public, and the public agreed that cyber war is going to be more strong than the war fought with arms and weapons. And the earlier we prepare, the better. We have always cited Section 14 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The responsibility of government is to protect lives and properties. It is our duty as lawmakers to provide legal framework that will enable government to protect lives and properties. Now, in the wisdom of the legislators, we decided that there was a gap existing in the cyber security space. And in order to block that gap, we said there should be resources to be able to take care of that responsibility. Section 44 of this particular act, have been severally cited here, was clear. It has nothing to do, it doesn't have CBN to handle all the issues around there. Issues like GSM is under NCC. They have a different regulator. So when you mention CBN, it is not only to the exclusive reserve of the CBN. The CBN does not control the NCC. We have insurance companies there. We have SEC, Security and Exchange Commission there, as one of the agencies mentioned in that shadow. Ours is to make the law. No individual was mentioned in that law. Citizens were not mentioned. In the course of the implementation, it is the regulatory bodies that have to ensure that since the 0.05% is from the already charges gotten by these agencies, it should not extend beyond that. It is their job, it's their regulatory body's job to do that. CBN should have a way of getting that done. SEC should know how to do that. NCC should know how to do that. It's not our call. So I want to say that we should be careful not to go beyond the doctrine of separation of power, which allows us to make laws and allow the executive to implement law. Entering into implementation space is not our call. And remember, as lawmakers, we cannot appropriate and reprobate at the same time. You cannot make a law that you pass and then you come back with a motion to tell executive not to execute the law. You can come by way of amendment of the law at the right time. I just want to guide the House properly so that we don't appear as those who are confused. We make laws today, tomorrow we say implementation should not be carried. We have instruments for amending the law, and that is coming here, suggesting the areas that you want us to amend. So having said that, I want to ask the question. You want to say something, Minority Leader? Please, you have a right of reply.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, like you rightly said, we find out that the implementers, that the executive arm, is abusing it. We'll come back to amend it. But we cannot, at this stage, amend by way of motion. All we are doing is to caution the executive arm. This is the content of the law we made. In course of execution, do not tax Nigerians directly or indirectly. If we find out that there are indirect taxes, it is justified for us to come back here and amend the law and see how we can improve on what we have done. And therefore, all we are doing today is to continue to enlighten Nigerians, because a lot of them are still not aware that this law does not apply to you. Those who are making profit from cyberspace are those that should pay, and it cannot be transferred to you directly or indirectly. If the people feel otherwise, it is our function to come back here, amend the law. If we need to remove it completely, then we can remove it. So I will please urge us to support this motion and let us make progress in the interest of the people of Nigeria. Thank you, sir.
Leader, please approach the chair.
Mr. Speaker, my contribution is strictly going to be based on the law that we're talking about. That is the Cyber Security Act of 2015. Mr. Speaker, like Honorable Sada Soli rightly pointed out, I think the whole confusion came from the office of the Governor of Central Bank with the letter and the directive he passed to the commercial banks. Mr. Speaker, Section 24. Section 24, subsection 1, no, subsection 2 of the Cybercrime Act is very, very clear, sir. It says, with the kind permission of Mr. Speaker, says that the Attorney General of the Federation shall be the minister to implement and administer this law. So the instruction
on the enforcement and implementation of this law should have come from the office of the Attorney General and not from the Governor of Central Bank. And I think it's because of that confusion that the office of the Governor has created that made Mr. President to tentatively say they should put a stop to the implementation. If the Attorney General had done what he's supposed to do, and honestly, Mr. Speaker, I agree in total.
Do you have any evidence that Mr. President put a stop to the implementation? Any documentary evidence?
Yes, we read
not
that.
Announcement. I want evidence. Any documentary evidence, present it to me because I don't have any. The chair does not have any.
We can do that, sir. We can do that. But the most important thing is that I agree with Mr. Speaker that having made the law, we cannot be the one to implement it. We allow the executive to implement it. But at the same time, we have the mandate of the people to ensure that it is the law that we passed that they are implementing. Where we feel such is not being done, then we can come by way of motion to correct that is not the law that we have passed.
By way of amendment of the law, not motion. You don't use motion to amend the law.
No, there is nothing to amend because the law is very unambiguous. The law is very clear. There is nothing to amend. The law is very clear. It's just that they are not implementing what we passed, and we need to let the public know that that is not the law we passed. And I think that is what the minority leader has done.
Thank you. I think what the minority leader has done is to clarify that the news out there, intelligence, in line with our House rule, should be there to monitor what happens around this issue. I don't think the prayer is beyond this. It's not beyond this. To clarify and to add the appropriate committee to be there. That is what this motion is all about. And that is what we are going to vote. We are voting that the National Security Intelligence should be added to the committee and to lead the committee that will look into this. And that's the question we are going to ask. Amendment? Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, sir, my honorable colleagues, Mr. Demban Federal Constituency, and I'm from Bauchi State. When the minority leader made the submission and it was agreed.
What's the amendment, please?
Just go into the amendment, sir.
Which of the prayers?
A committee, digital and electronic banking should be added to it because it relates to electronic transfers and whatever.
The committee?
On digital and electronic banking.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Any seconder to this amendment?
The people of Abombi say, Ngopala Federal Constituency. I second the motion. The amendment ably moved.
The ayes have it. Any other amendments? Because I put the question. Any amendments? Yes, Honorable Kuye.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remain Ademori Aliukuye, speaking for Shomolu Federal Constituency. I want to be amended to include the Committee on Justice because of the involvement of the Attorney General in it, to be included in the committees. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Al-Mustafa. Those in support of this amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in support of the motion as amended say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. This motion is now referred to Committee on National Security and Intelligence and other related committee like Justice, Digital Economy, banking and electronic banking, please.
I have a motion.
By this, it means that the House is standing by the law that it made on the cyber security. We are standing with the government that is interested in ensuring that we are protected beyond what we can see with our physical eye and what happens within the cyberspace. We are also in support that the citizens of the country should not be taxed in the course of doing that. but those who are operating within the space, who are benefiting from the space that have been listed by the second schedule in section 44 of the Act should be the one making this sacrifice for the safety of our country. We must always, at all times, think of what we can do for the government, not just what the government will do for us. Any sacrifice by these agencies mentioned therein in the second schedule that will help protect Nigerian people more is not a big sacrifice. It's a sacrifice for nation building. So we are aligning ourselves with this law, and we are saying the executive should go ahead and implement this law in a manner that the citizens will not be affected. The current government needs help from all angles, and if those agencies mentioned can offer that help, why not? And if not, extra motion of urgent public importance, which will be the last one. Gentlemen, I want to, honorable colleagues, I want to inform you that we will not be long here. We have an infrastructure problem that had to do with our electricity. So we are looking at leaving here maybe about 1 o'clock so that they can chairman on house services, that is the challenge we are having. But we'll try as much as we can. Honorable Shoba, we'll try as much as we can to see what we can do. Anyone that is remaining will spill it tomorrow. Let us have Honorable Satomi, please.
Colleagues, my name is Engineer Satomi Ahmad. A come order of urgent national importance to allow me to take this motion.
Honorable Sada, approach the chair.
The presidential airplane forestalled unwarranted on national tragedy.
Honorable colleagues, we say we are leaving 1 o'clock. We didn't say you should be leaving now. We say we are leaving 1 o'clock, and 1 o'clock is just 30 minutes from now. You should be patient. Let's finish.
Note that the presidential airplane was formed preliminary provide a rapid, safe, and comfortable airlift for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Vice President, and other very important persons, as may be directed by the President through the Office of the National Security Advisor. Note that appeals are mainly at the behest of the Presidency, National Assembly, that is Senate President, Speaker, and the House of Representatives, Judiciary, Chief Justice of the Federation, in some instances to pursue the foreign policy goals via the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Further note that the budget of the presidential airplane is under the Office of the National Security Advisor as appropriated yearly by the National Assembly. Alarmed by the report on various media platforms, particularly Sahara Reporters on 28 April 2024, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was forced to travel in Saudi Arabia on a chartered flight for the World Economic Forum in Riyadh from Netherlands, where he had gone for a series of economic and diplomatic engagement because the presidential jet developed fault in Netherlands. Further alarmed by the screening news report May 6, 2024, Punch newspaper, a faulty jet which occurred on Monday, 6 May 2024, above that the Vice President Kashim Shettima trip to the United States of America for 2024 U.S. African Business Summit in Dallas, Texas, were also affected. Aware that this report was corroborated in the press release and then communicated to the Office of the Vice President, disturbed that the occurrences possess a clear, present, and imminent threat to the life of the President, the Vice President, and other very important personalities in our plate from time to time. Gravely disturbed that any calamity of such cannot be taken, are not immediately put into premium operational status, has the potential not only to cause major harm to our stability in Nigeria. Resolved that to invite the National Security Advisor, the Commandant of the Presidential Air Fleet, and other relevant officers of the government for a detailed explanation of why the fleet is not operating optimum capacity needed to guarantee the presidential corridor safety. Provide a recommendation that all ensure lasting sustainable solution to these incidences which have brought shame and embarrassment to our country. Mandate the relevant Committee of National Security to ensure compliance and report back in 2 weeks. I so move, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honorable Kaita, Federal Constituency. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Katsina State. Mr. Speaker, today is a very sad day for me to speak on this kind of issue. Mr. Speaker, if this country should find itself in this kind of situation, then I don't know what will happen tomorrow. The life and the security of our president, and indeed the sovereignty of this country, and perhaps even the vice president had this kind of snag with his aircraft. We don't know what is going on within the administration of the PAF, Presidential Air Fleet Administration. What is really going on? We know how much money this House budgeted in order to take care of this Presidential Air Fleet. What is going on? If our president should be held at ransom at the assistance of our friends outside this country to charter a private aircraft, surrendering his security and the integrity of this country, I think, Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious source of concern. And I think this House should summon the Presidential Air Fleet and the Office of the National Security Advisor who are managing the fleet so that we will address this issue once and for all. I could remember in 2022, Punch reported the possibilities of impounding Presidential Air Fleet because by the foreign creditors. If we refer back to the Punch in 2022, there was that story when they were having problems with the Presidential Air Fleet in the management. I think, Mr. Speaker, is something that we should look at so that we can address it properly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Respected colleagues, I'm Julius Sihanvere, Owan Federal Constituency. I'm from Edo State. I want to begin by thanking my friend and brother and colleague, Honorable Satome, for bringing up this very important matter. We love our President, our Vice President, the Speaker, the Senate President, and other principal officers of governance. And I think when this news broke, some of us were shocked. In this current world of massive terrorist agitations and engagements of gross insecurity, where we have seen cases where security officers at regular airports have been compromised, that the Vice President will take a commercial flight somewhere, in spite of the number of aircraft we have in the fleet, is amazing. It shows very clearly that something is wrong somewhere. And as a national responsible House, we have to show concern, because if we do not do so now, this may continue. And having worked in that villa in an earlier life, I know how many planes we have, I know how they operate. So I think that the prescription of Honorable Satome should be carried. Let us find out how this could have happened in Nigeria today. Don't take anything for granted. I remember in an earlier appointment, the former president once told me, if the NSA brings you a budget, you don't interrogate it, because you can never pay enough for security. And that there is nobody in this world except yourself who cannot be compromised or blackmailed into compromise. We want to ensure that our officers that are leading the country are protected and given the dignity and respect. You take Delta Airlines or whatever, and then they come and pick you up in the commercial area with your bags. Anything can happen. Please, I want to thank him, and I think the House should take this seriously. It could happen to anybody. We don't want it to happen here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Respected honorable colleagues, while I join my honorable colleagues in sympathizing with the situations of our presidential aircraft. We love our president just like the leader clearly stated, and not only our president, we also love all the people in government. Mr. President and Mr. Speaker, since an issue has been raised, I will advise that the president should suspend using the presidential aircraft. If there is need, he can use either commercial or chartered aircraft. And another options, if that will also help Nigerians. If the president can travel by road, then Nigerians will have hope that our roads will be repaired soon. So, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Allegiance, you are asking my president to use road to go to Europe.
No, I'm not saying Europe.
My president should go by road to Europe.
You can use, Mr. Speaker,
my president should use road
British Airways
to attend meetings in Europe and UK. But you are not using road to go to UK. The last time I checked, you are not traveling by road. And you want the president to travel by road to UK. Can we hear from the minority leader? I think Allegiance has finished.
Traveling in a public flight. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom flies British Airways. So we should, British Airways, it's commercial. So I think that we should be thinking of how to resuscitate a national carrier. Not for
What's your point of order, please?
Mr. Speaker, I think the minority leader, with due respect, is misinforming the House.
Please, Honorable Sada, don't divide the House. Don't divide the House. We are not talking about minority and majority at the moment. We are leading our debate. Please go ahead. You are protected.
Mr. Speaker, just like the British Prime Minister flies British Airways special flights, just like the Queen of England flies British Airways on special British Airways flight. It's not commercial. Those aircraft are purely exclusively kept for those government officials. Anybody that is aware, that is knowledgeable how the system works in Britain, it is so. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria flies Nigeria Air Force. Nigeria Air Force. Just like the United States of America flies Nigeria Air Force One.
American Air Force One.
Yes, and it belongs to Nigeria Air Force. It's an asset of Nigeria Air Force. So I think the minority leader, with due respect, I think he should put the facts straight.
We need to make the same point. The British Airways is not the British Air Force. The British Airways is a private company owned by even a Nigerian has share in British Airways. Perhaps you are not aware. So let's not turn the facts upside down. But clearly what we are saying is that, yes, if we have fleet in the presidential fleet, those fleets should be maintained. And our president and the vice president and senior officers that are supposed to use those fleets ought to use them. But if for any reason we have failed to maintain them, I don't think that is an issue for us to even discuss on the floor of the parliament. What it means is that there is failure in the system. If the president and the presidency wants a new aircraft, the next year's budget is by the corner. It can be part of the budget, not to begin to lay foundation for it. If it gets to this place and it is considered worthy enough and they're able to defend it, I'm sure that we will pass it. If they are unable to defend it, so be it. But it is not an issue for us to discuss that the vice president flew a chartered jet. I don't think it is, with respect. I think that we should go into more germane issues. In fact, if we feel ashamed of it, then we should not make it a public discourse. We should cover it. Because what it goes to say is that we are unable as a country to maintain our presidential fleet. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am not in support of this motion.
that it should not be investigated, then what is the power of oversight function of the House? Can you address us on section 88, 89, what it entails when we notice that there is something that has not been done right? Are you saying the House does not have the power to investigate?
Mr. Speaker, that is not my position. We have relevant committees. We don't need to debate this issue here and arrive at a resolution for the committees to do their work. No, but if the committees feel that there is need to carry out that investigation, they can do that investigation. It's not for the entire House.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I've listened keenly the contribution of most of my colleagues on this particular matter. But Mr. Speaker, let's put this right. At a time like this, we don't start apportioning blame on this side or the other side. Any problem that affects the president, the vice president, senior citizens of this country is an issue that we as a parliament supposed to pick serious interest about it. This issue is an issue that needs to be investigated, either by a committee, but let the standing committee rise to this occasion by investigating why was it so and why is it so. Who has the power to maintain this aircraft that they have not done their job, and anybody found wanting should be sanctioned. This is my submission, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And in these mandates, you are allowed to carry them out without overburdening plenary. I must state that the chairman, National Security and Intelligence, has already been empowered by the House rules and did not need this superfluity of bringing it on the floor of the parliament to be able to do what ordinarily he ought to have done within the confines of his committee's mandate. Is the question whether or not it demands investigation? The answer is yes. The question is a question whether you need the consent of the plenary for you to carry out that function. The answer is really not necessary. The answer is it's not necessary. It falls within your mandate. So the House, I'm sure, will want you to go ahead and do your job as allowed by the mandate. Invite NSA if you have to. Invite the commandant in charge of the air fleet. We're talking about the #1 citizen of the country. His security is very important to us, irrespective of political party affiliation. The security of #1 citizen, #2 citizen, the Senate President, the Speaker, Deputy Senate President, Deputy Speaker, very important to this country. And it demands investigation. So go ahead, do your job. So I'll urge that you step down this motion and go ahead with your job as allowed by your committee mandate. Are you willing to step down your motion, Honorable Satomi?
As the chair pleases, sir.
You say that standing up to respect the House.
Sorry, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the guidance. Committee, I hereby step down the motion for the committee to continue its oversight function and carry out its investigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.